Joel Pollak from Breitbart News here, just outside the Democratic National Convention in Trump Tower with Representative Mike Waltz of Florida. The Democrats say that Kamala Harris is ready to be commander-in-chief. What would you say?
I would do a Kamala laugh because just look at her record the last 4 years and look at the state of the military under her and Biden's leadership. And remember, she is constantly kind of thumping her chest that she's the last one in the room and that she's right there at the table as he's making these decisions. Their military is so focused on social engineering, is so focused on pronouns, on base renaming, on electric solar panels, or Chinese-made solar panels on the Pentagon and on our bases, and on electric fighting vehicles, including electric tanks, that they have missed what they need to be ready. And right now, our jets, our planes, our tanks are aging. Even our facilities. We recently had an investigation that showed disgusting black mold, feces, and horrific conditions for our soldiers and sailors. The military's taken its eye off the ball. And so she's not ready to be commander-in-chief, and she has shown that the last 4 years.
You mentioned in remarks earlier today that this is the third anniversary of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. What role did Kamala Harris play in that process?
Well, in her own words, she was a part of the decision-making process, and she was the last one in the room before Biden decided on this disastrous withdrawal that took our military out before our civilians and allies, that had zero conditions on it, unlike what they like to say about President Trump's attempt to enter into a deal. It had conditions. And at the end of the day, when the Taliban didn't live up to it, he left our major base and our soldiers there. And then they tried to do it for political gain on the anniversary of 9/11. And we saw the results from that. Americans left behind, our allies left behind, and are being hunted down and killed as we speak. Terrorism is back. And our other adversaries, Russia and China in particular, got the message that we're not going to stand strong, that there's weakness in this White House, and they've been on the march ever since.
You mentioned China. Tim Waltz is going to be speaking on night 3 of the Democratic National Convention, and that's the day on which we're speaking right now. He has some interesting connections to China. He's been to China 30 times, and Republicans are asking questions about that. What are your concerns about his ties to China?
Who was paying for all of these trips? This was through a for-profit entity, is my understanding. Did he think it a good idea? This wasn't just necessarily cultural exchanges. He was part and parcel for introducing our children to Chinese communist propaganda. Does he still believe that himself? Is he still part of the crowd that believes if we just give enough technology, if we just integrate economically, if we share enough of our IP, that China will be nice and a good faith actor in return? Because if he is, that is incredibly dangerous. China is openly talking about stealing its way to the top. It's been the largest theft of American intellectual property in modern history, and it's our money that's financing their military buildup. If he is part of that crowd, that thinking is so dangerous to have in the White House. That's the same thinking we had with Joe and Harris, or Joe Biden and Harris, who said, come on, man, China's not a competitor. What's the big deal here? And look at where we are. Their nuclear arsenal is tripling, their Navy is larger, and she is openly talking about replacing the United States as a global leader. So I'm incredibly concerned. We need to get to the bottom of what the hell was going on with those trips.
Finally, you've spoken about some of President Trump's foreign policy successes in the Middle East and keeping Putin from invading anything and so forth. But in his first term, he had the advantage of being an unknown quantity. Perhaps other countries were afraid of him, they couldn't predict him. Do you think that in a second term he would lose that edge and they would have a sense of what they were getting and they would be more able to respond?
Well, I think that President Trump's unpredictability was an aspect of deterrence, but he also demonstrated it when unlike Obama, who established red lines in Syria and then let them step all over it, both the Russians and the Syrians, right out the gate. When the Syrians used chemical weapons, he sent 60 cruise missiles in there and sent a statement. When Iran was attacking international shipping, shot down one of our drones. Their militias overran our embassy in Iraq and they killed an American. What did President Trump do? He took out their field general and deterrence was restored. When ISIS was once again on the march, he took out Baghdadi and once again ISIS was contained. So this is a targeted application of American force. This isn't getting us involved in nation building. This isn't bogging us down in Middle Eastern wars, but it's doing it in a way that sends a very strong message that if you mess with the United States, if you kill Americans, that if you encroach on our interests, there will be consequences. And that's what dictators respond to: costs and consequences. Under Joe Biden, what have been the consequences? What have been the consequences for Putin over and over again taking Americans hostage? What have been the consequences for the Iranians? They get rewarded with billions. So when our adversaries smell weakness and they get rewarded for their actions, they're going to continue to push. Under Trump, that was stopped.
Congressman Waltz, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thank you.